Everyone, College Lefty, and this video is going to be a little bit different. It's not going to include any gameplay. I'm simply just going to be comparing MLB 17 to MLB 18 a little bit, some of the content in relation to how much I played the game, how much grinding I did last year versus this year, a little bit about my account and stuff like that. So I started College Lefty last year around November, and I played a little bit of the game. I'm going to show you my stats in that game. I'm going to show you how much time I put into it. I'm going to show you in 18 as well. I'm not bragging about this. I just want to simply explain to you guys the difference and also the content difference included in this one. So hopefully you guys enjoy. Alright, so I went back on MLB 17 and I wanted to look at my stats in comparison. So I played 12 days of Diamond Dynasty on this account. And I'm going to show you guys my team here in a second, but in Diamond, I didn't really play any other mode besides Diamond Dynasty. And in this year's game, I played 55 days of Diamond Dynasty, and I played a little bit of other game modes, but mostly Diamond Dynasty. But just to put it in perspective, how much I played the game, I did have another account on MLB 17, and I had a lot more days on that one. But I just wanted to put it in perspective. It's a perfect way to show you guys what team you could create in a short amount of time on 17 than you could on 18. And here's my stats. It also shows on 18 as well. So this is a screenshot that I just took on this year's game. It includes the stats from last year's game as well. So that's why you guys asked me. But in 12 days gameplay, I was able to grind my team that I'm about to show you in this next screenshot and play about 200 games online. So this was the team I had on this account. I did have some other guys on the other account. I'm going to be going through some of the comparison in MLB The Show content from both years. Unfortunately, I don't have MLB 16 anymore. I had it downloaded, and then some stuff happened and ended up getting deleted. I'm not able to get it back. I tried. I called Sony. I wasn't able to. Anyway, I don't want to get off track. This is the team that I had. I had the rotation in Oral Hershiser, Vida Blue, Chris Sale, Finest, Roy Oswalt, and Noah Syndergaard, which was just a budget pitcher. I didn't have enough stubs to get anybody else. I focused on the lineup, getting everybody I could get back in the lineup there. Jimmy Rollins was a great card. I knew we weren't going to have him in this year's game. I don't want to talk too much about that. I just wanted to compare some of the cards that were end game. But in this video, I'm going to be focusing on the nerfed cards from this year that were in last year's game. I'm also going to be talking about a lot of cards that people wanted, some cards that I specifically wanted. And I know that the content's not completely over with in MLB 18, but this is the squad. You guys know my squad in MLB 18. I have all the Immortals unlocked. I put a lot of time into the programs. And I did put some time into some programs in MLB 17, especially on this account. And I was able to get a couple of those cards. I'm going to be focusing on talking about comparing these cards here. We have Andre Dawson, which was a 99 card end game, unlockable from day one. He's got 93 power, 97 power, which would convert to 116 or 122 power in this year's game. I did the calculations. I'm not a game developer, so I don't know exactly the conversions or how they converted it. I know they focused more on doubles, on base or slugging percentage and stuff like that on base. They looked at some more stats. So I understand why he doesn't have power like some of the Immortal cards, but 75 and 96 is horrible. This Stanton is another good example. This Stanton you got from collecting the NL East. I know this is a different year, but I'm going to be showing you the 2017 Stanton compared to the 2017 one we got in this year's game. From the collecting the equipment, whatever equipment it was, I think it was Thanksgiving, something like that. I'm going to be talking about a lot of these cards from the equipment collections because a lot of these cards are nerfed from the last year. Some of them aren't as well. Like this Stanton is a decent example. So he has 99 power versus both. That would obviously accumulate to 125 versus on both sides. They're not going to give him that, but they did give him a good card here. He competes with some of the Immortal cards. I don't understand why they couldn't have made Dawson like 100 power on each side at least. He would have been a little bit better. They did something along those lines with this Eddie Matthews, and he has 97 power, 99 power. He's got good feeling. This is almost an identical card converted to this year's game with the 125. Without the 125, I mean he has a little bit boosted power versus lefties, but almost an identical card. I don't understand how some of the cards are the same and some of the cards are similar and some of the cards are completely nerfed. That stuff doesn't really make any sense to me, but I did want to focus on creating this video. And here's another example. This is a card I used in my team that you guys saw. It was my starting catcher. 91 power, which would have converted to around 114. I know they're not going to give him that. That's about what Griffey has. But it also would have converted to around 73 power versus lefties. Even if they gave him like 104, 70, that would have been perfectly fine. He would have been a little bit better. And the contact, they gave him a little bit better contact. Obviously, that has plays a factor in some of this stuff. But I just don't understand. I never created a video game. I don't know. But I did realize some of these cards, and this card I also used would have had around 120 power versus Lefty. I had the conversion at 119, so that would have been fine. Maybe even less, because that would have been a little bit better than the finest. But I'm talking about facing lefties, and he just has 80, so that's completely nerfed. Same thing on righties. He would have had at least 85, and he doesn't even have that on lefties. So it's just confusing to me, but I use some of these cards as well. This card was probably the biggest disappointment to me, just because I'm a Tigers fan. I do have a biased opinion on this card. But this is an MVP. He didn't win the Triple Crown this year, but he did win the Triple Crown. The card that we have for this year's game, and it has 77 power, completely nerfed. I would have thought that this card would be able to compete with the Mortals, or if not be an immortal card. I think Miguel Cabrera deserves one just as much as Pujols deserves one. But that might be a little bit biased if you ask me. But they're right around the same caliber player. This Joey Votto, they just released a new Joey Votto in this event, the 91 overall. And this would have been an amazing card to bring back this year. I'm going to be talking a little bit about some cards I would like to see return, or I would have liked to see return in this year's game. This card, I know it's a different year, but I don't know why they would bring this card in when they probably could have gotten the same. They could have made the same card from last year and tried to convert it. I mean, maybe nerf it a little bit, but not like some of these other cards were nerfed. I think some of these cards are just unusable in the game. Like this Jacoby Ellsbury, I know was a huge letdown for a lot of people. I mean, I never used this card. I faced him a little bit. I understand that the developers wanted to try to focus on more doubles and triples, extra bases, more stats. But the fact of the game is, in this year's game, in MLB 18, it's pretty much a home run or nothing, especially facing or using these immortal cards or any cards that compete with immortals, like these finest cards. It's home run derby in ranked seasons. Everybody knows that. And the developers have to know that as well. I mean, they create the game. They say they test it, so they have to know that. I'm not bagging on them at all. As you can see, as I showed in the previous game, I played the game a ton. But I don't want to get too far off track. I want to focus on Luis Gonzalez. He's kind of an outlier in this. He actually got a boost for a guy that hit about 3 homers, 10 RBIs. He drove. I know I'm a huge Arizona fan. I'm from there. Gonzo had a clutch hit off Mariano Rivera. I know Yankees fans hate to remember that. But this card kind of got a boost, and he had a very impressive postseason. But some of these other cards could have been just as usable as that Luis Gonzalez. I know some guys use that card as well as the Jason Giambi, just to put. They're kind of comparable. That's why I compared them. But this is a card that I didn't even really see in last year's game. Just wasn't the meta. I wanted to use this as an example because I understand that the game changes. But could you imagine this Bruce Sutter in this year's game with the better per 9s and a more converted card? I know it's a couple years later. I think this Bruce Sutter won an MVP. That last year was a breakout one. Or the other one was a breakout one. So that would have been interesting to see. That card would have been even more OP. I know this was a huge letdown for a lot of people, maybe the biggest letdown of the season. This was a World Series card from last year, a 99 overall Roberto Alomar, and then they completely just went and got a Blue Jays card. No offense to any Blue Jays fans. I know Roberto Alomar was good for the Blue Jays, but I mean, look at this. They even did him dirty on the Blue Jays card in comparison. It's just not even close. I mean, imagine that other Roberto Alomar converted with the 120. I mean, it's just the best second baseman in the game. Sandberg wouldn't even, even if it wasn't an immortal Alomar, Sandberg wouldn't have really compared to him. I think other people would have used that Alomar just because of the switch hitting factor, and similar as they use Jose Ramirez, finest, over some of the immortals. I'm just kind of going off on a rant, but this Verlander is kind of compared to this Player of the Month Verlander. I mean, I never really got this card, never got a chance to try him out. He really only has 4 pitches. I think the 99 had 5 pitches. Yeah, they took away his 2-seamer, and I know in MLB 16 he had a running fastball, which was a pitch that I haven't seen in this year's game. But anyway, this George Springer, postseason MVP George Springer from last year, would have been awesome to see. This was a similar program to the Steve Pearce postseason program we have in this year's game. Was redeemable. It was about the same amount of time. This James Paxton was a Player of the Month card that I would have loved to see make a return. I know a lot of people were using this card. I mean, converted to this year's game, I don't know how he would have played, but it would have been cool to at least see this card. But pitch speeds were changed in MLB 17. I know this Correa was widely used by a lot of players. Also a Player of the Month card. He would have been a very good card if he was able to get a boost and have about, you know, 90 something power, 100 power in MLB 18. I know that's giving a lot of people a lot of power, but at the same time, these cards were end game. These cards were good. They had a lot of variety in the lineups in this year's game, and it would have just increased the variety in MLB 18 as well. So this Jansen is another good example. I wanted to include starting pitchers, closing pitchers, all the above. I wanted to include a little bit of everything. We never saw this Ian Kinsler in this year's game. We never saw the 93 Ian Kinsler from the Tigers from last year's game either. I don't have a screenshot of that one. I didn't include it in the video. Wanted to focus mainly just on one version of each card. The Stanton was an outlier. I wanted to show that he had two very good cards, and then he could have had two also good cards in MLB 18. This Hanley was probably the one card that everybody wants. Like literally everybody would want this card back. The Hanley that we have in MLB 18 is just really not that good. This Ken Griffey Jr. is an example of a program Ken Griffey Jr. This is like the cover card for MLB 17 if you didn't play it. And that's kind of what I talked about. I wanted to just focus on that. They also had a 12-0 BR Ken Griffey Jr. that I showed right here. And I would like to see that in MLB 19, if they don't bring back Immortals, I would like to see this type of a thing where there's a grind Babe Ruth and a 12-0 BR Babe Ruth, a grind Ken Griffey, a 12-0 BR Ken Griffey, something like that. I don't know if they should do away with Immortals in MLB 19 because I know the devs put a lot of time and effort into creating those cards. I know it made them a lot of money. But let me know what you guys think about what I said in this video. Let me know what you guys think about Immortals in next year's game and just kind of the comparison I made in this one. Peace out, everyone.